So, Sanje Cheda
Tsering Soki Chonam Lo Chanchu Bardu Dagni Kapsuchi
Daje Chujenge
Gipe Choknam Ki Jolam Pan Chanta
Sanje
Sange Jupar So
Sanje Cheda
Sang
Soje
Soki Chonam Lo Chanchu Bardu Dagni Kapsuchi
Daje
Dagi Chonin Gipe Choknam Ki Jolam Pan Sange Jupar So
Sanje Cheda
Chorang Soki Chonam La
Janjo
Chanchupa
Baba Danye
Da Ni Gapsuchi Dagi
Daje Chujenge
Chanyin Gipe
Sonja
Tsoknam Ki Cholam Pancha Sange Drupar So
Dayantan Gade
Gate
Gade
Gate Para Som Gate Body Svaha
Dayantan
Ayata Gate Para Som Gate Body Svaha
Dayantan
Tata para sum gate body swaha.
Wala so ngoja simje thamje ga to thobja lana ma che ba sanje ye gomba rembo che chine ja to ba cha de che de me janjo semba lab jana chui che de nyam to lang ge lang wala shin go go shin ba le tu go to wala de je shu ma no wa ji go de ka su ba ba de ni ke se ge lab je shu ke bo to go ni chun ju go shu de ke se che bo shi wala se ba chun ju go shu ge te de che she tibi ni ge sam sam che
And so we begin we begin by setting our motivation to do whatever we possibly can to attain the peerless state of enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. And we have that aspiration, knowing that we must, in order to pull it off, really perfect all the trainings of the Bodhisattva path. To perfect those trainings, we need to have perfect knowledge of them. And to gain that knowledge, we must be able to rely upon a non-mistaken text. And thus it is with this in mind that we are here this morning to listen to a teaching from what is known as the king of mind training texts, the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, as composed by the great master Shantideva.
아니 단다데 남주도 내신 제는 것도 다지 가서데 소신체 세다로 다 되는 것도 다 남기 지금 요비서 보다 되는 시체 공부시다 디공부시체 아니 랑게 둥기 나가라 뭐랑게 디자자가 라마 이바다 나바 탑제라 투제 쳐보다 봐 아니 라마 투배 공부시다
And so, again, as we normally do, we also set up the merit field in the space in front, which consists of our own, in actual fact, our own very kind root guru, who is visualized in the aspect of the greatly compassionate one, Shakyamuni Buddha.
보다 라마 투배 공부시다 라마 투배 공부 대세지 차니 예산의 영향자가 되는 두제가 후천나 봐. 꿀을 주고 보면 도저서와 오다 어디든지 뭐 무슨 뭐라다 쇼유 삽사자 아니 랑게 타고도야 랑게 체디에 파마 체가마 디가마 좀 토마메바나 랑게 등장배 아니 저기 감성의 심재탕 저 마게 감성의 마게 심재탕 저 마사와메바요 서서 어디로 보자
And that's in the figure that we are visualizing has one face, two hands, with the right hand in the earth touching mudra and the left hand in the meditative equipoise mudra, holding an alms bowl filled with nectar. The figure is in the nature of pure, clear light, dressed in the saffron robes of a monk, that we feel that the Guru Buddha, the Guru Manindra, is actually there. And all around us, we have all kind mother sentient beings from this life and the life previous to this one, the one previous to that, previous to that, and previous to that, going all the way back to a beginningless time and countless rebirths in which they have acted in the role of a parent for us.
어디서 아니 라마 투병 뭐 세다와 디 아니 지워 옴가버 데바 아모 투가 홍부 이게 숨제 세다 아니 투가 홍래 왜서 빠도 매버 트네 아니 감속에 심제 탐제라 왜서데 포 디포라 때네 아니 대다게 아니 지게 토마매버 디바다 아니 저게 아니 저 가서도 뭐바 말이 발라서 봐. 다가니 생게 최주에 계제 탐자 셋네. 오다 간자 저 아니 루게 나자 생게 동엘라서 봐. 최주에 계제 되게 파세네 돌아. 내도 되게 바자도 좀 봐. 바 장시 다바 중소 섭섭체. 아니 디 장시 다네. 아니 딜레 줘야 아니 다 개와 되게 돼. 아니 동순거 동이 지금 탐자라. 아니 하다미 최배 제 가서도 나가 강화 파တွေ့잖아. 아니 초주 개와 세다 제발 야 쳐봐 피. 초주 개와 세다 제발 쳐봐 피와라 때는 초주 개와 세다 제발 이렇게 투라 대화 통. 대외 동바대 대돈 뉴스에 시 계속 삼삼체.
And then the figure of the Guru Buddha is marked by the three syllables, at the crown, A at the throat, and Hung at the heart center. And light rays begin to emanate from the Hung at the heart center, going out into all the three realms of existence. And they dissolve into all of the beings resident in all those three realms of existence. And they begin the process of purifying all the negativities and obscurations that all those beings have accumulated since beginning this time, the ignorance surrounding them of the true nature of reality, all the negativities associated with the body, with the mind, and all of these negativities, including their imprints, are completely purified. And the virtue that arises from that process is a virtue that is spread around through all the 3,000 realms of existence and becomes a physical like offering to all of the Buddhas in all the 10 directions. And as they experience this gift of virtue in the form of these offerings, and they experience a bliss which combines with voidness, and they abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness.
어디 공부세 아니 델레 아니 대다가 투주 꾸네 아니 뭐 대다가 구송 조지 개와서다 저 구송 투게 연대 임발라 나봐 아니 또바 샤제 투베 나발라 마 쥐네 아니 랑게 동게 난갈 세트베 라마 또발라 라마 샤제 생게 라바티 아니 뭐 예매 조소 삼사체
And so then this in turn becomes an object which is like representative of all of the qualities of body, speech, and mind of all of those Buddhas. And this then it dissolves into the figure that we are visualizing in the space in front of the Guru Manindra. And the Guru Manindra becomes non-dual with all of the Buddhas, all the qualities of those Buddhas in existence, embodies all those qualities.
아니 어디를 공부시 아니 되네 야 라야 랑도 두나세다 라마 투베 옹베 투가네 외세 트네 아니 저게 가서데 옹게라는 젠타 only 옹골 아니 only 옹고네 아니 취라마 제조도 주발래 아니 가서데 오르다 only 옹고네 류탄제 아니 오르 가서데 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 이시기 되제 칸 아니 취라마 제조도 내발래 아니 가서데 미제가 오게데 그래서 공부시
And so again, the light rays emanate at this time, inviting back the empowering deities, and they confer the nectar of empowerment, which completely fills the entire Buddha, and some of which overflows at the crown, spontaneously producing the figure of Akshobhya.
what is it to what the commerce what the set or that the legend of that and Ranga Duna Dungan Nangala said Lama to be on the Tai Shiva Mususun and a Choji was said that Chibeta Dani, but what does what to check what the set?
And so we now view the figure that we have visualized in the space in front of the Guru Manindra as not only empowered by the wisdom beings, but also embodies all of the qualities of all the Buddhas of existence.
근데 라마 두배 온보데 아니 가소래 가소데 데 가소데 나라도 돈달 투게 나라도 돈달 람라 나라도 돈달 고바서 산제 바 인데게 아니 라지바 탐제데 제와 현지바데 제와 탈로 제와 꿀라 투제 좀 니림메 바 주바 팬다 마다 탐제데 되게 산제가 윤제 오다 고꾸네 삼로다네 삼로다제 오다 되는시 요바데 워쳐바체
And so we can reflect on the enlightened qualities of such a being in that they have, for our sake, solely generated the mind of enlightenment. For our sake, with that motivation, trained on the path, and for our sake, manifested full and complete enlightenment. And that these beings are characterized by having no fear in relation to suffering related to themselves, are skilled in means in removing the fear of suffering of others, work for the benefit of others with great compassion and without bias, and work to benefit regardless of whether there's any benefit to come in return.
그렇죠. 아니 랑게 타고도 심제 심제 대다 탐제장 아니 고소래 대화 되장 대외포 미드바 동네데 다 동네게 지기절에 지기면에 예되게서 다가제 저로다 어디게 가서데 동네게 나서 무상다 kokune 소와지 어 이바데 뭐저바지
And so when we bring our focus to all the sentient beings surround us, we can see that they are not only bereft of the happiness that they so desperately want, but they are completely inundated by suffering, by the great variety of suffering, as if going from one suffering to the other constantly.
그러다 지금 동네 숨어 다 동네 숨 어느 동네 개라 소매다 가자 저러다 가자 지금 가서 남리도 수완이 신 공부 시체로 다 동네 교회 동네 에 잡아 두제가 동네에 맞대와지 이게 어느 교회 동네 가회 동네 아니 나회 동네 아니 가서도 저런 거 보세요 미니바다 밑에가 토도 법의 동네 아니 로아다 치외 동네라 소바 다 되게 공부 시체 동네 숨어 동네 개다 다 지금 남림나라 숨에 되게 공부 시체 네 텔라테네 동네 나처럼 될 미스베 닌지키
And so these sufferings, are well represented in the graduated path teachings, whether it's the grouping of them into three, being the suffering, the suffering of change, and of course, pervasive suffering. There's a grouping also of 8 different sufferings, including, birth, the suffering of birth, old age, sickness, and death itself, of really searching desperately for what we want but not finding it, of always meeting with the unpleasant which we don't want, etc., etc. And so in contemplation of all these varieties of sufferings that are well explained in the graduated path teachings, then compassion can arise in us as a result of this.
로다 동해 날에다 동해 자외 조게 동해 조어디 가르던 것을 잡아 두지게 동해디 로아 잡아 두지게 동해디 동해 이번 뭐죠 로아 동해 보고 라와메 봐 양내 양도 녀사 잡고 해디 디 어디라 아니 와다 되게 동해게 나출었다네 아니 가서 미스베 니지 깨고도 왔다 되게 니지 깨는 아니 심지어 탐제를 니지 깨투해 준 거로 와 심지어 탐제를 니지 개투에 쪽으로 와 와든지 딜레데네 아니 거서데 교회 동네다 아니 동네다 되게 대체도 와 와다다 와데 아니 디 용해데 아니 용해데 다지 용모 두숨한테네 용모 두숨데 아니 다지 머리 벌었대네 용해 다지 머리 벌다 빵마도 봐도 못는 동네 용해들 아니 미스베 니지 개고야지
And so so all of these, the grouping of three, the suffering of suffering and the suffering of change, of course, the main suffering that we need to reflect on is pervasive suffering. That's which is really responsible for us again. So really, it is represented by that process of never getting beyond this constant round of rebirths into suffering. And that when we talk of compassion in this context, it's really a compassion for all sentient beings without exception. We can see that pervasive suffering is that which induces the other two sufferings, the suffering of change and the suffering of suffering. And that indeed they are all, condemned by the mental afflictions, particularly the mental affliction which is referred to as the ignorance of grasping as a self-entity. And we understand that unless we are able to overcome that particular ignorance, we are doomed to suffering. And so, therefore, compassion for that suffering is always relevant.
ane lama tupe ongo la mipe ane tawe tewa ichi ki tewa mutu ki tewa ane rani ki lama tupe ongo la tene tewa kiawa nje taipe maki simje teta tanje kya wata lama tupe ongo la tawe tewa ichi ki tewa mutu ki tewa yue teke che rusuru tunga nashiwa kaipa nashiwa imbala nama nga rusu mine che namju yuke tobe yue tete su xie tuke ane tila tene tawe tewa ichi ki tewa mutu ki tewa kia tuke wo tene che meba che
And so also we visualize how, we have this then unbearable, finding such suffering unbearable, which generates that compassion. We also have this desire to present happiness for other sentient beings, which generates love for sentient beings within us. And also in our reflection on the qualities of enlightenment that can enable us to do that, we develop a pure faith, manifest faith, and the faith of conviction. And similarly, all of the countless sentient beings all around us have that same awareness and that same attention to our aspirations. They are suffering, the sufferings relative to where in their own realm, but they're able to cognize this situation with human intelligence. And so they also develop that pure faith, that manifest faith, and that faith of conviction in the qualities of enlightenment.
어디를 공부시 어디를 다들 맞아 안다 심제 대다 담자 안에 되게 저게 대화다 대외 주다 대화 있잖아 치모로 대화 주제 대화 쇼체 동에다 동에 주다 전에 치모로 대화 주제 대화 쇼체 대다 동에 매베 대화다 민전에 치모로 민저와 주제 민저와 쇼체 아니 민저와 주제 민저와 다게 지기 어다 대다 어디를 공부시 아니 대다게 아니 대대 용할래 니리 차던데 대화 좀 맞으면 탑니다 근데 이제 선제 대다 탐제 아니 제 니리 차단의 주에 단요를 내가 치모로 내가 주제 내가 쇼체 다 내가 다게 지금 대다 진도 라마 투고 뭐 챙길라도 고마시
And so we think how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings had happiness and the causes of happiness. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings could be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings had the happiness that knows no suffering and the excellent bliss of liberation. And of course, we realize that all of these aspirations are wonderful, but when holding a mind that discriminates, it's extremely difficult to generate these in any kind of genuine way. And so we must base all of these aspirations on a foundation of equanimity. And we pray how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings could abide in equanimity, free from attachment and anger, and that wholesome, close, and others distant. And relative to all these four immeasurable thoughts, we think, may this be the case. I will see to it that it is the case. O Guru Deity, please bless me to make it so.
어디를 공부하시잖아. 당연히 언제를 공부하셔야 되네. 라마토베 공부를 하는 꿀에 두제나가 외세다 제가 규범했다. 외세 가보시죠. 토마메바는 사면 되고다 되고 캐바도야. 안에 되게 또 봐줘라. 봐도 주제 되고도 마찬가지로 선서 공부하시.
And so, as a result of our supplications, the light rays begin to emanate from the Guru Manindra in the merit field, entering into our crown, the crown of ourselves and all sentient beings, with the five-colored nectar light, with the white predominant, thereby effecting a purification of all the negativities and obscurations that we have accumulated in general. And in particular, all the obscurations to our being able to generate the four immeasurables in our mind state.
아니 되네 양조소 왔다올라 되네 왜서 나가지 말아 이외서 또 세부식 아주 밤에 아니 라다라다가 심지다 집어내 마주네 왔다 도마면 왔다 집어내 마주네 되네 아니 라마투비아 옹벽에 아니 투기로 요반에 신체 세마시가 또 밖에 와자 하시 심지 탐적이 줄라 아니 계속 내 뒤에 바자 개바지 샤소스도 왔다 고마샤
And then again, as the nectar lights once again emanate, the five-colored nectar lights, this time with the golden yellow light predominant, entering into the crowns of myself and all the sentient beings surrounding me. This thereby bestowing on us this blessing to be able to generate realization more quickly, but particularly laying down a powerful imprint for our being able to generate the four immeasurable thoughts into realization.
다들 이제 아니 심지어 대다 탐자가 로다 심지어 대다 탐자라 다 가자군에 저게 로 저거서 저거 대다 탐자 아니 저 라로 토마멜 티인자면 아니 진진 이마 아니 대다 진제 진정부터 진 쏘고와 아니 진 쏘, 로다 다 마셰바 심지어 대다 저 아니 진지가 많이 마셰바 대라 진 쏘와 아니 그래서 많이 마셰바 대라 진 쏘와 아니 진 쏘는 다 그래서 진짜 맞잖아. 아니 텔레tin 소아자 마셰 진짜 소아자. 안데 레스토랑에 아니 이왕게 잡았으면 이제 수입받아 이동하자. 수술 내밖에 봐 이내야. 심지어 되게 딩게 찾는 사람들도 이동화 통해 중국으로 와. 이동화 통해 중국. 아니 텔레지도 아니 도게 나와라 미세봐 요야. 아니 대화대 대도게 잡아 요야. 안 대다 동에다 대화대 대도 녀치게서 학습 개투야. 다 근데 라섬 게는 소지 지가도 심지어 탐제잖아. 심지어 찍어야 다 제투에 뉴바데 당기면 도와. 다 근데 뉴바데 솔라 도스나 아니 랑게 되나 센터가 라마 투비아 옹버들라 도. 이 심지어도 투게 심지어도 람라 뭔가 좀 상계와 임바사 콜라 도. 아니 공개 공부하자 마도나 타면도 뒤도와 있나 아니 계지 레레라야 심지어 멤버 좋아지면 제도다. 그래서 감다 매봐 바라냐봐. 아니 지다와시도 경계 여반자 샘제가 더 배배론도 좀 두고 여반이서 다 공격 공부하지 마도 더모도 뒤토바 지기 섬들 어떤 게 샘게 어떤 게
And so it's really remembering the sentient beings and the role in which sentient beings have played in all of the lives we've had since beginningless time, and beginning by seeing all the sentient beings as a mother who have acted in the role of mother for us in all of those lives. And secondly, how we recall the kindness of the mother when they were in that role, how the really immeasurable kindness that the mother gives. And thirdly, then this powerful urge to repay that kindness is generated in us, having reflected on the kindness. We want to repay that kindness. And this automatically leads to affectionate love, of holding all sentient beings in that affectionate love. For after all, when we consider another to be greatly kind, the notion of affectionate love towards them is something that arises quite naturally. And on the basis of that, then also we generate the kind of acute awareness of their suffering and how that's unbearable. And from that sense of unbearableness arises compassion. And so from that compassion, then there's this exalted intention to take personal responsibility. I will be the one to remove them of all their suffering and place them into every happiness and to attain enlightenment. But of course, as soon as the thought arises, we realize that we haven't got the capacity to be able to do that now, even for one sentient being. But also, when we reflect further, we can see that it is from the position of enlightenment that is possible, that it makes that possible, that the Buddha has, for the benefit of all sentient beings, generated the mind of enlightenment, proceeded on the path, and actually manifested full and complete enlightenment for all sentient beings. And the Buddha has the capacity to, in every moment, ripen those minds that have not yet been ripened, or bring to fulfillment those minds that have been partially ripened. The Buddha has the knowledge of the individual dispositions and inclinations and karmic propensities of all sentient beings. And so it is only from that attainment, that position, that one can really work to benefit all sentient beings. Therefore, with that informed mind, I wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings.
What the same get? Yeah, but you want you to imagine the dream of the Kibachi, some such what the Nekobashin, and then they get Dumbati, then they get Dumbati, and the Caso de Ranginga, the Achila Jusu, some such. I also Jubale, and the direction when Yakawaji Jusu, so the Kobacha.
And so you make that powerful aspirational thought to quickly be able to attain enlightenment in that way to benefit all sentient beings. And that aspiration is represented by the syllable "ah" at our heart center, which transforms into a white moon disk mandala.
What the Kombasha? What are the nigga Simja Tamjig don't understand your combat to win? Yeah, you want you to win, say, Nati Kamato said, and in the end, looting got it to it. Yes, Simden got it to it. And look at Chacha didn't got it to it. And to Chacha did by Yawachina, but to tell Matuka Bato. Yawachido, Nassing the Sawanine, Mindua, Nigumdua. And the same did it, and the same again, the same. Kitchen Rota kitchen matching the red Chechudu, what a same day, what a Kajachig Kasoda Cha Chungseja Natsubutu Saji Yamati. Then what a the nigga money but the color same door sharp.
And then we reflect on this desire, I will attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Where is that I? Where is that self? We begin the analysis of that. Is that sense of I to be found in the body or in the mind, in the parts of the body, as we, distinguish between the different limbs and going into smaller parts of the body. And even at the atomical level, we do not find such a self appearing. Then we look into the mind. What about the mind? What about the past and future moments of the mind? And again, conducting that analysis, but not finding that sense of an inherent or in a self-powered sense of I. And so that not finding, we place our placement meditation just on that sense of not finding that which we have been looking for.
What the not saying money but nga mebe theory vessel mare nga yoba din rawe kasa nyoya to go nga kibu to nga kibu mendo o nga nyamlen chigi nga simje tham sanje koma tugi yin sige nga ji yoba ta nga yoda de gende ji yoba resna wata nga rawa na tubesa da tusa meba yin to ta yodan de ta nga waskolon nga ten jungale ta meba re 다 라완의 좀 매바이나 다 두단데 때네 중앙에도 조사치 매도 요마래 다 된자 나 라완도 맞으면 다들 갈등 거였으나 나 쎄는 많이 받대 나 라완도 맞으면 다나 라완도 맞으면 인자 다 나니 얘네 여봐 다 여단데 걔네도 다 때네 주발에 외매도 잡았다 때네 중앙
And so then this self that we have been searching for, just not finding of that self, do we then we conclude that it is something which is not existent? No, we don't. We know that there is some sense of a self that exists because of experience itself, our own experience. We talk about, I am happy, I am unhappy, I am engaged in practice, I want to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Surely there is some validity to that sense of self. But the question is, how does it exist? What is its mode of existence? And we can, first of all, need to discount the idea that it can have any self-powered existence, any independent existence, even at the atomical level. But how does it exist then? It exists in dependence. It arises in dependence. How is it established? It is established independence. That's the way it has to be. And there is no other alternative.
Tene chunga yin sa to rawan de jusa mewa rawan de juba yin ba yin na tene chungsa khora yong ba ta dini de karso le karsa dokchor ba
And so when
rawan de juba ma yin na tene chunga yin ba chabre tene chunga ma yin ba yin na yo ba yin na rawan de juba chabre ta
so that if phenomena don't arise in dependence, then they must be self-powered. If they cannot be self-powered, they must arise in dependence. In other words, these two positions are mutually exclusive. You know, to say that if a phenomena has true existence, it arises self-powered, then it follows that it cannot arise in dependence. If a phenomena arises in dependence, it cannot in any way be a self-powered phenomena. It follows that therefore it cannot be an independently existent phenomena.
rawan de duwa ina ta juwa meba yung gore ane kaso thoma meba ne yo gore ane thoma yo mare thoma ta kaso thoma meba ne yo gore ta mebe tu meba ko juwa tangsa meba rawan de duwa ina ta rawan de duwa meba yung ta ko juwa tanga yo re ro mo se semje rawan de duwa meba yung ta sanje ke ko ba duwe duwa rawan de duwa yin ba ina semje rawan de duwa ina semje sanje ko ba duwe juwa tanga yo mare.
And so that which mainly distinguishes these two positions is that if something is deemed as self-powered, it necessarily concludes that it cannot change in any way. It is that which cannot abide change. It has no beginning, no ending. There is no possibility of a kind of movement from that position. It is that which is fixed, solid. And if something is dependent, arising in dependence, it by definition is something that can change. It is in the process of changing. And that this is what we talk about when we talk about the possibility of a sentient being being able to attain the state of enlightenment. It is rendered possible because that sentient being arises in dependence, and all phenomena arises in dependence.
다들 이마이자 나체는 많이 봤대 나 매베 되마요 제가 라완도 맞으면 돼. 다 나체는 많이 봤나시 나 따사게 시 랑게 풍부다 샘을돼야 지버져 풍부돼야 아니 풍부돼야 그래서 풍부돼야 와서 라완게 맞으래. 풍부도 가와도 제정도 예와체는 제정도 아니 랑게 류게 때도 제정도 랑게 풍부 데려서 두고 사자라고 말해. 그 말아야 될 가르쳐 풍부 매베 돼 말아. 풍부 라완도 맞아 봤다로. 셈에 찍었지야. 셈게 계진가지라 바이와 체도 아니 바 제조도 아니 셈스인데 권기가 요말. 담만이야도 셈 매베 돼 말아. 셈 라완도 맞아 봤다. 라완도 말아. 다셈 요단 가서 셈 때는 중앙. 이메 다된 거 요래. 때는 중앙에 돼요.
So then this not finding of a self, and when we analyze in this way, we conclude that the existence of self is posited on the aggregates of body and mind. And then if we want to look in further to see, is that body then, or that mind, something which in itself is self-powered or independent? But when we put it to the same process of analysis, we see that when we look for a self-existent or self-powered entity within, say, the aggregate of body, we do not find it. Again, we find nothing towards which we can point that would satisfy what we are looking for. And that the body or the mind is similarly so. Again, we can put that to further analysis, checking the past and future moments of consciousness, but we will not find that self-powered sense of a self. And so we make the conclusion that therefore such a self cannot exist. How then does the self exist? It exists in dependence.
다들 임바이사 거다 라완도 마주바 임바티 때네 중앙 임바티 거투게 때네 중앙 임바이사 라완도 마주바도 거투게 디니 가서래 다 가서데 찍라 때네 찍 거투게 찍라 때네 찍 거투게 중앙 임바이나 라완도 마주바 때네 아니 때네 중앙 거투게 때네 중앙 임바이사 라완도 마주바 거투게나 와다 때네 거한테 내도 송아 임바리 돈이 거한테 내도 송아 임바리.
And so therefore we can see that these two positions are mutually exclusive. If we posit something as existing as self-powered, therefore it cannot arise in dependence. If we posit that phenomena arise in dependence, there is no way that they can be self-powered entities. If it is one way, it cannot be the other. They are mutually exclusive positions. So we choose to see the phenomena arise in dependence, and this allows for functionality.
어다데네 임바자 어다 나라와 많이 바티가라 셈샤네 데네 가자 가삼디가라 셈샤네 아니 데데게 녜베 로데 아니 이게 홍질 랑게 되게 다 니가 그것도 다외 긴거 같은데 이거 홍지 조소 선서 홍 요소 저발에 도지 가고 쟁가 바치라 조소 선서 공바차.
And so then as we contemplate this searching for this I that we do not find, and we place our mind, just placed it, focused on the mere negation of the object of negation, that then transforms into the seed syllable hung, which presents on the moon disk at our heart center, and then transforms into a white five-pronged Vajra, which is marked by that syllable hung, and it stands upright on the moon disk.
장주가 셈 천재게 다외 긴고 약한와데 돈이 도베 돈이 도베 셔라 천재게 얼가소데 도지가고 쟁가바 될라 홍기 셈바유에 되게 홍기 셈바유에 되게 어딘지 좀 공부하시 어다데게 장주가 선다 돈이 도베 셔라 단단 공부하디 아니 다 산제가 고마 마토가 봐도 단단하게 사변전에 되네 권에 권도 배 리버전전 어다 어데 랑기 닝 요소다 가제 24 hours, 7 days.
And so then at our heart center, we have the white moon disk representing the mind of enlightenment itself, and on which sits the five-pronged Vajra marked by the syllable hung, representative of the emptiness mind, the wisdom of emptiness. And really, it's important to consider that we have this beautiful representation, which is like an imprint on the mind, that until we attain enlightenment, may it increase more and more, may be able to increase the depth and profundity of the mind of enlightenment, and likewise the wisdom realizing emptiness. May it happen, may it be the case 24/7.
我等这因为因啥他这个身边的苏达车吧，身边属于按你这明了说吧，过吧，身边苏达车吧，身边的这个苏达水端的什么当吧以呢，按你大概经过伢讲话什么当吧点呢，按你贵呢讲究个身，嘛叫吧给可能看得出来，等这个。지난 그 초 컨텐츠 바이나 안에 디다 자와 샤베가 디 삼로 코베 까블라 임바이나 야 저거 가서데 디 가서 디 아니 가서데 무유기 내주 아니 가서데 다가자 저 가서데 디 가서데 라완네 마주베 되는데라 아니 삼로 하나 차투에게 아니 랑게 니가 거도 도지가고 쟁가바 디 아니 가서데 뉴바테체네 디 아니 가서데 디 뉴바테체네 아니 가서 동 라왕고 마주베 돈라야 삼로 차투에 뭐 되는지 아니 디 된데게 아니 채도 아니 랑게 니가 거다 다와도제 쟁가바 디게 뭐다 된데게 아니 뉴바테체도 아니 디 용투에게 랑게 덴바데 셰싱게 손네 아니 되네 아니 가서데 와서 다 간자제 삼로데 거두네 차투바 제투에치 뭐다 보마시고 요사래 어디서 근데 잘라를 이제 냐베 소리 많이 맞잖아. 다와지 이제 잘라지게 도지 이제 냐데 디 삼로다면 장주가 셈도 돈이 또 셔라 삼로다 셈제 근데 로라 차바 있는 장주가 셈고 돈에 가서 딜레데네 아니 셈제 탐제도 산제 고바도 어때 디체도 두기 소리 디체도 인사다자 라신가 마두바서 내단 근데 통하는 모다다 강바다 잘라다 내가다 그 디가 라완의 마두바 셈제 있는데 라완의 마두바지 어디 디 삼로 디 도지 가고 쟁가바 디 여바 될 때는 돈이 라완의 마두바 로 차투에 다와 도지 공발할 때는 심지어 수저 저거 임바이네 아니 디토라 잡아다 니젤라서 봐디 저거 산제 공부 중에서 로 차투에치
And so, what is the point of such a visualization for us? It is really that we can actually integrate it into every moment of life as we go out and meeting any other sentient being, that we can think of what we have here within it, not as kind of physical objects, but they are kind of mind states that we want to nourish, that we want to increase more and more and more, so that when we meet with another sentient being, that we immediately recall that we have the symbolism of the mind of enlightenment in the form of the white moon disk at our heart center, and that this then translates as an attitude of love, compassion, and that's to the forefront in our interaction with that sentient being. And similarly, that we have, because of the visualization of the white five-pronged Vajra marked by the syllable hung at our heart center, that the notion of their having no self-powered existence, but they actually arise in dependence. They must arise in dependence and marking the interaction with that sentient being. And so it's this sense of having this at our as our fingertips, as it were, this reminder that in all situations, in all of our situations, even when we are alone, that we are looking around us to all the objects that we are looking at and seeing them not as something that is self-powered, arising out of nothing, but rather something that must arise in dependence. And keep reminding ourselves of this, to see that phenomena naturally arise, and we use our mindfulness and alertness to keep us aware too, the fact that we are, as it were, trying to embody these qualities that we are holding dear at our heart center.
지난 다와스인데 가서나 지난 시외란시르와 안디자 bena 차단의 로든데 게마요에 차단의 로 마게바진다 지금 로 지가서데 지가서 어떤데 마요에 쳐든다 시와 로 차바다 다와 차단의 로 마게들 로다 가자 장주가 셈제라 미베 셈제 술레미네 미베 장주가 셈 숙청보 줘봐 이나 그 차단의 로 영상으로 요마르와 요말와 오다가 다와 거에데 시외랑 신이 맞아. 그 자와 코란 제례데 시외랑 신이 메이자 어느 거 작던 걸로 그서데 봐 시기뇌야다 되게 쳐도 어느 뒤때도 오다 뒤건데 아니 작던 걸로 그래서 숙충도 충도다는 많이 봤어 돼. 많이 봐대는 관에 관도 패도야. 오다 자주 그 섬라서 관에 관도 패도야. 어디 돈이 도배 셋업 검네 아니 뒤 홍홍데 개회 투규로 홍자 홍데 용서 교관래다 도저 가고 쟁가 지 검데도 저 도저스도 교감해 봐 때먹어 줘야 돼. 근데 그 돈이 도배 돈이 그 도배다 돈이 그 돈 삼로 따네 아니 뒤 돈다디 아니 랑게 돼 이게 도저 가고 쟁가서 도저스 교 된데 그 삼로 때 교감해 봐 때먹 전 내투에 제도 아니 스카바이네 삼로 근데 토바이네 돈이 그 로차투에 제도 아니 도지 교감해 봐 천대 고메 뒤로 와
So the symbolism behind, say, the moon, we say that the visualization of the moon has a cooling effect, and so this is the cooling of the attachment that we might have in our mind, so that when we're meeting with sentient beings, without that attachment, that we can.
땅소라 착받아 땅와서라 착땅 착받아
Sorry, both attachment and aversion. And so it's kind of like cooling that discriminative tendency that we have when we meet sentient beings, so that without that attachment or aversion, we have the possibility of that mind of enlightenment coming through the middle into that equanimous space. And that when we think of the hung syllable marking the five-pronged Vajra, we have that sense of that which is indestructible, that which will not be moved. The Vajra has that symbolic meaning, and that means that we are able to actually have, as it were, in our vision, the notion of all phenomena and all the sentient beings that we meet with as lacking any objective existence, lacking any self-powered existence, and merely arising in dependence. And so that our mind is kind of constantly, indestructibly, unchangingly suffused with the meaning of emptiness.
어디를 공부시켰거든 어디를 저 어디다 내게 다와도지 쟁가봐지 어디를 저 공부시야 어디를 저 어디를 저 어디를 공부시야 아니 저거 내가 랑게 되나서다 라마 투베 온거 두갈래 아니 다와도지 쟁가봐지 요치 어디를 공부시야
And so we have established that that moon disk and the five-pronged Vajra at our own heart center. We also see that the figure visualized as the merit field in front is also has that moon disk and the five-pronged Vajra at their heart center.
어디를 공부시야 안다는 뭐 인사 어디다 되는 어디다 가제 저거 가제 저거 가서도我那个他甚至他们这个三界国码头，他甚至他们这偏把对吧？他们这的东岸他这找去完了，那人家三界国码头他们多，他现在人家三界国码头完了，加州个是东尼都被写了个伢们嘛，就他们多，真的在地伢们这边吃多，他。아니 제도 아니 뒤에서도 아니 전주고兄弟얘기 인상 자주 어디다 공부 때잖아. 라마 투배 공부 검시면 가는 어디다 공부 시했죠.
And so then we kind of reaffirm how we are taking all sentient beings into our visualization, how we want to give them every happiness and to remove every suffering. In order to be able to do that, I must attain the state of enlightenment. And to attain that state of enlightenment, I must perfect these two mind states of the mind of enlightenment itself and the wisdom realizing emptiness. And really having reaffirmed that and refreshed that in our motivation, we now say, now I'm ready to listen to a few verses from the Bodhisattva's way of life. Shoktrang niga jume som gilgichikti niba rang ni gyang chiwa chiwe shen wang tu gyurwala long yo
니바 라니 자 치외 신왕도 주베 롱유 자미롱아 자 오래 다들
이래.
오래 어느 그래 다 오래 오다래 다 니바 라니 자 치외 신왕도 주베서 롱유 자미롱아 다 가자 시마 먹고 시마도 먼저 통한되거든 먼저 단대 개발네 개발 개 도마 개두기 개발서 다 먼저 부고가 다 개들어다 하고 맞아 개다 갈아 간장수는 먼저 대바이도 대두가 미 먹고 다들 통에 매고 줬다로 조차를 망부 조차로 와 아니 조자 뭐지 다다다 템베 유메도 뭐도 다 미사와 사와 투고도 메도 닝바디가 뉴다 체 닝바디가 점불린데 샤는 조 아니 미사와도 마도 투에 용고도 와야 다 마시베 온데 담아이나 와다 된데 저거 뭐 샤바 된데 다 된데 조조 소소 만도 다 용미시 버와 다 아니 가세 마이세 다 뒤돌 빼자서 마이 방진의 세계 여바이나 아니 샤바디게데 아니 다다 소 방진의 세원데 아니 소소 세 람예도 저거 하모자 자사 니고 흘려 되게 다 소소 디나지 대와이나 다 준두다 개와 요마레스 아니 소소에다 오다 고 소소니엘 인데스는 저도 소소에 남제데 저거에서 같은 게 송송하고다 다가서 니봐 빼이셔 봐서 그도 어데 송송아 송송아 다가서 가서 시험하게 마이 다 방전 세고요데 아니 단다 하마디게 자세 흘려져 신나매 버제 대대고 열봐 뭐 대대고 다 소소 디나 시전에 다 대바이나 다 내가 대대 제바이나 다这个米内在的什么当米内在当个要嘛是我看成送啥做，他的那因为啥，他你把让人家7月相关的就他就是什么都是7万的，让人家7月相关的就完了，让人家7月相关的就呗，龙月加米肉完了西节，让你其他就往的就呗，个是来路米家哇，牛都7月结完了别吧，7月在来路帮把对嘛用吧，对呗，是。그래서 되게 레 맞제버 로봇의 치외 레로미지 그래서 레로미자 오세
And so we have been discussing the problems with laziness, particularly in relation to death. You know that we death is obvious. Like we can see that from the time we have been born, how many people have already gone. That it's clear that we're in a kind of a queue that is quickly passing, that there so many more and more being born anew, but then more and more are passing away too. And so the idea that I won't be one of those, that I won't pass also, is kind of like idiotic. It's not possible that I will not also die. And also that it's kind of like becoming nearer every day, but then as we were told in the previous verse, don't be like the idiocy of the animal realm, but that buffaloes, waiting in line to be slaughtered and unconcerned about what's coming. We must do something about the little time that we have been left. So if we are just waiting around unconcerned, doing nothing at all, then we're no different to those animals waiting to be slaughtered. And so this point is taken further in the next set of outlines. The next one is that I also will die. I will come under the power of death. And so it would be completely inappropriate to think that it's not going to happen to me, or it's not going to happen soon. And this has 4 subheadings. The first is that since I will fall under the power of death myself, it is no time for laziness. The second of these, because this will happen quickly, death will come quickly, I must make effort at virtue. Thirdly, that it's no good thinking that I will abandon laziness at the time of death itself, too late. And fourthly, that all of what, without completing all of my plans and all of my tasks, death will occur adventitiously, will come all of a sudden, and therefore it's no time to be lazy. Resa.
Rani chida jo ondo jume lelu mija wani chida ondo lelu mija ne lamne kune kane so chida kine te shindo chida kyune sagashe teta nilo chida kacha.
And so the first of the subheadings, that is that since I myself will fall under the power of death, do not be lazy. Don't indulge in laziness. Verse number 6 reads, when having blocked off every escape route, the Lord of Death is looking for someone to kill, how can I enjoy eating? And likewise, how can I enjoy sleep?
Roda chiwa mebe tondo towe lamne kune kane deba tabi sa roda kajade kasora ta chigi tsedi yengwala chamde roda kokone roda lamne kune kane deba tabi chidaki seja tashindo ta kajaje roda ta chigi chida shinjeti oda chigi so de 다 셰바소라 파잔 수고도 셰베게 다 세자게 심제다 다 가기 예라 세고도 거 지금 베다 샤송 자긴 제나 다 샤오탈라 때네다 가기 예라 세고도 거 따기로 와다 디시도 지다 큐네 뭐가서다 세자 다시도 지다 큐네서 마이 밤에 받았다 세자 심제부터 마이라서 왔다 라루카리 마데 데데 밤에 제 내디로 왔다 콘솔 남주 요마로 밤에 왔다 세사와라 가시다 지금 세사와라 가시다 니로바 지다 카데 제 되게 다가서데 되게 세기를 삼다 삼사를 코고요 말봐 마고네 아니 지금 된대제 다 남지나 아니 치도그래 삼다 삼사를 마고네 저 밤에 제 내봐 니로바 다 밤에 제 칼라사 데 아니 남주대 지금 미지디 내다서로 삼로단 팀에도 삼로 치와가 삼로 가야 마도데 개와 치마 편제를 편에 삼로 가야 마다데다 배 지금 니로단제 로안에 시제 데데데데를 고코네 대바나 지다 문에다네 지금 데데 그 고코네 간이 대 레드웨츠 보다 데데 말다스 아 지다 가다 카미릭 소스 문에잖아 보다 데데 고코네 데네 아니 데데 질 아니 기부소를 기부서 삼로단 대바나 다들 딱딱한 게 요 말했어. 또 셔보자.
So this talks about the doorways, as it were here, every escape route are, and the routes to the city of the deathless, as it refers to here, and that all of those are closed. And then death comes like this butcher, as we had met before, to looking for something to kill. And above all, we must not be like that buffalo, which is kind of still in the meadow, thinking about only the next mouthful of food, completely unconcerned of imminent death, not a thought to the benefit to future life or anything else, but is just caught in this self-deceived existence about what is inevitable and coming soon. That the butcher is sharpening those knives there. Others are lining up, ready to be slaughtered. And so it's saying to us, this is not, how can I enjoy eating if it's the situation is like that? How can I enjoy sleep? Why am I just chasing the kind of like the pointless happiness of this life and not working for the future?
다치다지 뭐저 칼라스다 대사다 튕겨도 먹었고 뭐 다디가 지금 추주에 튕겨는 줘도 봐지 칼라사에 돼 심지 탐정도 산제 공매 주변에도 칼라사야 아니 지금 세디 아니 지금 통계 되게 돼 심지 탐지기도 산재 고마 주베체도 아니 가서 디체도 아니 지금 랑 지금 가서 다 지금 가서도 지금 가서도 라라 고베다 통계지 고고요라 되게 심지 탐지기도 산재 고마 주베체도 오다 통계디 가서도 다 배주 당시 맞지 맞지 고마르스 뭐다 다가 싸움을 고콘 대와이나 다 되네 저 삼로 가야 매바체네 아니 깨와 치마 편제를 패야다 하도도 다 땡기 두기 두베게 아니 미 류된래 디난데 된조고 류된래네 다 산제 고바 두투가 된데고 누바 유여바디 티 누바데 베주 마당 와체네 아니 사예 통예 고예 대사 어 된데 지라 고콘데 대바이나 어다들 되게 요 말에 수고 뭐다야 사예데 되게 요 말에 통계데 베주 당데 되게 요 말에 수고 요 말에 그래서 근데 배주 땅 왔대 산제 고마 주베치도 배주 땅 도바이나 다 틱되게 요래 다 근데 멤버체네 아니 디다 배주 땅 아니 시야 삼로 가야 매 세디 삼로 매다 가야 멤버체는 대바이나 다 두두다 개와 멤버 차주고 또 아니 미지기 님보들 렌투고 뭐도 저다디 고도 고다
And so here again, one makes the distinction, that of course one needs food to eat, one needs a place to live and to sleep. These are necessary things to lead a decent life. But what we are talking about here is to be able to use all of the conditions that we have in life for the sake of attaining enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, to have our motivation correct, to have our motivation set so that, sure, we have the necessities of food and drink and sleep and shelter, etc. But we are definitely fixed, and we're very, very certainly using it in order to lay down the causes to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And that we recognize that if we are simply attached to food and drink, money, or anything else that is kind of like possibility within this life, that we are just looking at experiencing the thrills of happiness, and not in any way focused on definite happiness in future lives, and then really there isn't really that much difference between ourselves and what an animal would do with that time. And we're certainly not taking what is called the essence of life.
가서나 미 류된 디는 된조고 류된 쓰긴데 가서나 산제의 고마 주투에 누바시도가 깨와치마 미류 랭게네 미류 렌투에 깨와치마 타바 주변에 타베 고마 주투네 주투에 아니 산제의 고마 주네 주투에 된데그 류된 즉 여바디 아니 디 배주 땅 마도 바제네 아니 체디 다 디기 소저 고콘에 침바이나 다디 미지닝부 렌투고 뭐도 쓰고 열와 디순고 말다 순고요 다 디순고요데 아니 다 워터 바체네 아니 미지 님부 렌토 바체고 됐어.
And so this is, of course, because the attainment of a human life, and particularly the attainment of a precious human rebirth, affords us the capacity to attain the state of enlightenment. It has within it the capacity to attain the state of liberation. That it can, through it, we can attain the future rebirth as a human being or as a celestial being. Now, if we don't use it for that purpose, then we become deceived into the happiness of this life. Then it's considered as a great waste, and we are kind of accused of saying we haven't taken the essence of this life that you have attained, and it's a waste of this life.
니바 뉴도 치웨 개와라 베바네사 자왈레 뉴원이도 치료에 진시 돈을 조사자자.
The second of the subheadings is that since we are quickly will die, make efforts at virtue. Verse number 7, the first half reads, "For as long as death is actually approaching, then I shall accumulate merits."
다네 링도 미네바 달와 링도 미네바 가서 뉴원이도 치와 주변에서 다 치와 되겠다 거지게 주에 아니 진시 치다게 마셈 봐도다 대세도 아니 달와다 가자제 치와nye 남친님의 치외제 처음부터 가야 미변바 인사 당고도 도움지 자고로 왔다 다 저거라 다 치와nyeba 인바 인사 최주에 다 제고도 아니 그 남친님의 인바다 최 그래서 드리네 단단한 주에 다 제고도 다 치외제 처음부터 가야 미변바 인사 가리 제바 인에 최주 좋아 제고도 왔다 뒤제 제고도 다 데데 단에 링도 미네바 뉴원이도 치와 주베 진세 치다게 마세바 데세도네 소사바자와 당에 랭게데 소사예 로아 소사예 아니 디바자예 되게데 예 랭게 있어 다 소사사스 같은 장주고 선다 돈이 도베 셔럽레 고말라 나가 소사야지 요 말에 소사야지 요 말에 어디 고바셰 어디르자
And so here it's saying that I will not be around for long. I know that death is coming, and that for as long as the Lord of Death does not grasp me, for that long I will endeavor to accumulate merits. And so this is saying, understanding that the three aspects of death is definite, the time of death is indefinite, and only our virtue will be of any benefit to us at the time of death. Related to the three conclusions on the basis of those three contemplations, that death is definite tells us that we must engage in virtue. That the time of death is indefinite tells us that we must start that process of virtue right now. And that only virtue will be of benefit to us at the time of death tells us that we must exclusively engage in spiritual practice now and not anything else. And so it's kind of really saying that, we need to focus on accumulating virtues, on purifying negativities. And that if our aspiration is to attain enlightenment, we must understand that without accumulating these accumulations, these collections, that aspiration will not amount to anything. And so it's saying, to accumulate merit and to purify negativities. These are two main practices, really. We accumulate the merit and we accumulate the merit of wisdom. And that here and purifying those negativities, and showing that the best means of being able to do that is to proceed in life by integrating the mind of enlightenment with the wisdom of emptiness at every occasion. So in all occasions, at all times, we are applying the motivation of the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom realizing emptiness.
다 가는 제바 있네. ਪਹਿਲਾਂ 즉 가서 강바 약본할 대바나 강바 약본할 대바데 산제 고마 토벨 펜 토바치 뭐다 데데 중앙이나 녀자 요마래 다 간자 데데 매바체 아니 세디 짠짠지면도 아니 샤 삼로 가야 매바체 데바 이바이나 다디 너고 요레 수고 요바 너고 요레스
So really, again, to emphasize that, to be able to proceed with the right motivation in whatever we do, and that so that we are not deceived into really being addicted to just the happiness of this life. That, all of what we avail of, and all the food we eat, the drink we drink, the place we live in, and so on. It's not to say that, in order to practice Dharma, you must give all that up. No, it's really saying don't be deceived by it. Don't be enmeshed in it. And that if you are able to sleep well with the aspiration to really focused on future lives, on definite happiness in future lives, then there's nothing wrong with the sleep you're having. If you have aspire to have a good house, but if you have in that the motivation that's going to help you to enhance your motivation to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, that's perfectly fine as well. It's when we are addicted to just the thrilly happiness of this life only and focused on just that causes problems for us.
Right. Che tuwe de garsa digi che de dugura. Digi che de dugu ede digi se de chime digi gore che de digi gorwa. Ine ya che digi che do ene chime gi digi give up je bana ta de norgo yorwa. Sanje gi jutuwe de give up che na ti norgo yorwa. Di tenge do tona dik de yore.
So you can see the logic of the situation here. If we talk about happiness and we're really focused on future happiness, the happiness of this life is also taken care of. But if we're just focused on just this happiness without a thought to the future or anything else, then we're kind of using up our store of happiness and we're not doing anything to attain enlightenment. So we have to be able to kind of understand the kind of where the logic leads.
어디로 공부하셔 어디로 저 좀 치외체 어서 치외서 치외체 레로 치외체 어서 레로 뽕 뒤마인바 자원에서 대체 레로 방자네 뒤마인베 지시자자
The third of those subheadings was that if we talk about abandoning laziness at the time of death, that is completely inappropriate. It's too late. That's the saying. That's not the time to be dealing with laziness. The root text says, this is the second half of verse number 7. Even if I then put a stop to laziness, what will be the use? This is not the time.
치와라 투베체 레로 방자네서 다 겨와 두비스 제바네 투니베 투마이다 다 겨와 두베게다 투마이레서 레로 방바 임베텔라 지시자다 되면서 다 되게 다 지금 레로 방을 다 지금 저거 삼로스 코나데 약보다 레데 곧 돈달랍쳐 가야 좀 두고 말봐 돈달랍쳐 다 지금 디카돌라 오다 레로 방 쳐주고서 곧 지금 삼로를 티비티비 따는 거 마당 원래다 야그래 이나야 소소게 미지 된저고 르데 니바다 다 고쳐봐서 소토요 말와 고쳐봐서도 말야 디 오다 디디 레로 빵네 다 지요 말 노아레 쓰기요 수고요 말에 가서 디디 레로 빵와 이만네 다 디디 가서다 치와라 투사도 다 소소고 옹보 냠사레 아니 류 냠사레 강가 냠나 다 치와라 투도도 되네 저 중에서 곧 니바도 요 말와다 다다디 옹보 디게 그 탕보여래 르베긴 니바 요래 로아 니바 요래 다 디갑돌라 다 저기 철로 봉와이나 아니 녀모로 구급 슝충다 저거 요래 아니 데라데네 아니 철 납쳐버 제토고데 다저 류가 예수고 토는 니바 쳐버 제토도 아니 디 되게 다고 사주 쳐보 정도 거와 다 치가 나가라 투자도 다 레로 방에서나 가서 가서 다 그게 체디 자와제를 니바 메와차나 다 추게 자와를 지금서 그 니바 가야 요 말다고 납치 뭐 용거 뒤수고 열와 뒤수고 열 다 되면서 그 노래 수고 요 말인데 얘네 다 되게 그 납치 뭐 두고 말했어 아니 그 가서 대적을 리된 게 니바 때 두고 말했어 딱 그래서 랑게 제가 옹보다 류다 류가 예수 그가 니바 예배카다 대적을 리든 이마차 대가다 니바 예배카다라 아니 그 레로판에 지금 두고 그 레로판에 아니 주주게 돈아 다 딜 니바 요레스 사주 쳐 용거레스 거기서 쓴 거로 하는데 지금 전화 매면서 차게 됐어.
And so this third one then is saying here that when we meet with death there, and then we kind of go, now I'll start dealing with my laziness and I'll start accumulating virtue. It's kind of saying no, it's not the time that you're able to do that. In fact, you know, it's kind of, what's the point? There's no point to it. And of course, it's not saying that if you can manage to overcome laziness at that point, at death, and to actually turn one's mind to virtue at that point, there's something good in that. But it's saying that, you know, you are at the point of death going to be somewhat overwhelmed by the process of dying and the possibility of being able to think straight, to abandon laziness and to turn one's mind to virtue will be somewhat compromised. And therefore, it's saying that, you know, don't wait until death to start doing this process, to start practicing like this. Actually, you know, you must really to do this when we're fit and well at this point, because it's only at this point when we are fit and well, mentally and physically, that we can have the far more capacity to, on the one hand, prevent mental affliction and to deal with mental affliction efficiently. And also we have that power to be able to accumulate really significant virtue with great import to the virtue that we do accumulate. So it's kind of saying this is the time in which you can really put that effort in. At death, we will not have such latitude or power to be able to turn our mind to what we really want it to do so. So it kind of like really saying that for now, when we have, you know, whatever we can in our body, in our speech, in our mind, to use that power when we have it, to do the best virtue that we can, to and do the best purification that we can, etc., etc. But not, and to deal with laziness, therefore, and to, you know, try swap that laziness for enthusiastic effort where we rejoice in virtue. And now is the time to be doing that, not at the time of death.
그러나 지와를 투조되던 것도 미니제 정치조도 정도 통고도 안에 소소게 지가서 삼로게 땅다 땅게 말에 안에 수부게 수부야고 조금도 잡사당가다 되게 미로 왔다는 저거에다 다 아니 계좌 되게 다다 되도 다 된데 가블레도 아니 거다 최주변에 가보시라로 와야 가보시라래도 그 디간데 납치부 주변에다 가보시고 줄 와. 좋아서 최선의 당부 것을 신고를 최상 퇴배 셔랍 계고를 아니 삼중의 셔랍 계고를 검중의 셔랍 계고를 그가 그 용해 거라 요 말고 그 용해 거라 그 비다고지 시에 비다고지 그거서 내중 다저 저기 장도고 제도에 삼중을 로케도에 안 들라드는 검중의 셔랍 계도도 용해 거라 용고 말고 다다 니바 예배갈 제바도나티 뇽몽게 줄에 배주당 아니 그다 저기 치가 라들라 지기 제서다 다 거의 용해 매기 기자고 다디 이래 다들
So it's simply obvious, isn't it, at the time of death or when close to it, how we are so compromised in our thinking, in our physical, you know, needs, how we need that much more help just to do the basics in life. And so it's very hard to do Dharma practice, let alone decent Dharma practice. How, we talk about the wisdom arising from learning, the wisdom arising from contemplation, the wisdom arising from meditation, how we can turn what is another powered kind of way of contemplation to a self-powered way of thinking, and to come to those, wise conclusions on our own, so that we can own ourselves and our habits, and to work on them efficiently. It's kind of difficult to see how we can do that at the close to death.
That's Shiva Devel. 다 시바 되벨레 마제바 로보드 치유에서 레로미자 원에 따와래 데네 마제 잠바다 대체 제베 네발라 아사 로보 치다 원에네 기위 좀샤 서버주사.
The fourth of those subheadings was that we must avoid being lazy, because death arrives suddenly when we have not finished what we wanted to do. And verse number 8 says, when this has not been done, when this is being done, and when this is only half finished, suddenly the Lord of Death will come, and the thought will occur, oh no, I am done for.
Rwa, nima khashen shiro yang 직전에 미디 녀자디 차네 양 연주 녀자 shimba jawe duzu yong to da chiwa la namjin yeme za ha gu ma rwa so so 녀자 de ma sa ba to ani shigi me se de me ba rwa 녀자 da 그래서 처마다 다 세다 de khala chedo 녀자 jagira 녀자 마켓는 년 키운 거로 배는 산제 마켓 되버 khala 세 년이 키워 있나 세 년을 장갑날 크리스날 주샤바이나 아니 디 마조보도 소서 대게 다 줘봐게 말와 딩겔에 소서 시도와 연구를 와다 마조권의 시도와들 연구를 와다 다가는 이제 지금 달 내가 되려라 소서 자와디 마제싱 다 소속의 자와 지기선 차시사 자와 고마조권의 시도 가세 자와 고존에야 체가스의 시도 다 나조 연구도 안 해봐면도 자와디에서 마제신 디 고점바다 디 치야 내가 체가서 제반 내가 로봇도 치와되는 용어도 거서 다 셔발로 용어 되기도 하 셔발로 용어는 소소로 마요 예바 매봐 치다 마루와 원에 되네 기회 다네 치외 좀뭐셔 선바데 교바 주에 다다니네 다데네 임바인사 당문에 지 가서도 소소 저기 교바께 먹고 이제 저기나 아니 단단해 아니 가서도 가서래다 저기 최 줍투바 다다네 아니 저기 가서데 다 가서데 가서데 아니 저기 다다네 아니 최여기 냠네 제투바 고그레스 다다니네 개발을 배워 저거셔 보자 그래서 당가 내가도 차네 아니 내가도 차잖아 아니 냠네 지기 당게 지기 내가 된대 저 내가도 차는 게 냠네 지기 되게 내가 맞아고는 소수 시스게 됐어 딜레 단단해 아니 냠네를 bun고 됐어 다 냠레 bun고서 내가 지금 말했고 뭐라 내가 지기 냠레 지기 지고 됐어
And so this is a familiar situation, really, when we talk about, how in many cases, we have our shopping list. We go and do our shopping. We return home. We put the shopping in the fridge. And before the food has been eaten, we have passed. We have gone. And that uneaten food, that shopping has not been used. It's as simple as that. And in many situations, we have that situation. Here talks about, jobs that have not yet been done, or jobs that have been half done or just started. And it's a whole list that will inevitably be there. And we think we're going to have time to do them all and to have everything kind of really sorted. But death arrives often suddenly, as it said here. And we will simply, be crying out, oh, it's me, I'm done for. I haven't been able to complete what I wanted to complete, and death has taken me. And so it's kind of like we go, how then should we live? What's our response to this reality? And the only response is to practice, but not to have the idea that, oh yeah, sure, I know that. But I'll get onto it when I finish, this job, when I'm retired, or when I've done this particular thing, or I'm, when my work is done. No, that's the wrong attitude. You will inevitably be, shocked by death before all of these things can ever be done. So what you need to do is to change your perspective and to say that not when my work is done, but rather I see my work itself as Dharma practice. I integrate my Dharma practice into everything that I'm doing.
그래, 그래서 그때 내가 고모주 쓰고 말 내가 지고 말해서 내가 지고래, 내가 고수 그래. 보다 거디 치매 하고 말을 내가 맞으면 뒤요 말 와. 뒤 말은 거디 신의 개와 요 말을 내가 채식거리 말에 뒤째. 아니 뒤야 아니 저기 거서데 잠니지 장주도 쌤다 돈이도 배 셰라게 아니 삼로다 대외 돈에 되겠지? 제 아니 거디 있는 잠니지 장주도 쌤다 돈이도 배 셰라게 냠래도 마냥 뒤 니버 마냥 맞잖아. 거디 있는 냠도 여봤지? 아니 그 세링부 때는 빼야고래 디다 투베가 냠래 유림부 제도래 세통도 때문에 교와 요말에 거두이네 장주거서 돈이 또 냠래데 젠디 줘대요래 아니 세링부 때마다 통돈데 세통도 대와이네 그 교와 매바 제셔 세링부 때마는 딜라바베 냠래데 규정아 제도고래 다 야보러 와 아니 세통도 대와이네 딕대가 세링부 대와이네 딜레 야가 차대겠죠 아니 교와 제고에 좀 세매 되겠죠 그대로 때문에 쇼핑 제고 말에 내가 레고 말을 쓰고 말 내가 제고래 내가 제고다 내가 더 냠도 장주스다 돈이 더 배셔라가 냠을 이해도 봐 쇼핑 제고 말을 쓰고 말에 쇼핑 거래 지기나 세링 뭐 대세 그래 미사에 통해 거를 봐 그래서 그 디다 투바 그저 세링 뭐 대바이네 대다 투베 장주스다 돈이 더 배시 냠래 학교 봐 제도야 세 통도 대바네 간 대바디 장주스다 돈이 더 배 냠래 이해 돼 봐지 어때 제토바이나 다 딩되고 요래.
And so again, one must not misunderstand this as if we are to drop everything and just sit and meditate or sit and practice. That no, of course, one needs to work. One has to be able to live. And so it's kind of like really saying that, please, use your work to enhance your love and your compassion, your mind of enlightenment, your integration of the wisdom realizing emptiness. Do not allow work to degenerate your love and your compassion and your realization of emptiness. Allow it to deteriorate. Don't question too much about whether you have a short time to live or a long time to live. But if you are integrating these noble aspirations into everything you do, bringing more love, more compassion, more mind of enlightenment, more wisdom realizing emptiness into all of what you do. It's not so important whether you have a long time or a short time to live. If you have only a short time, then you're making the most of it. If you have a long time, you can rejoice. I have more time to make the most of it. It's really important to do that. Therefore, it's not a question of never going to the shop anymore or never going to work anymore, but making sure that, yes, shopping is necessary. We all need to eat. We all have to have food. And so you need to do that, but bring with that the mindset of loving kindness and compassion into the supermarket or wherever you are going. Make sure that you are infusing your own awareness, your consciousness with these mindsets while you are doing it. And that's bringing your practice into everything that you're doing.
Dede je tuba ina, ane ko se tungdo yinba ina, ya ma shi zho de gewa yakbo shi leni yungu de. Ko se jamni ji janju sa, toni tobe shera go nyamni yungu che, gewa yakbo lenba ta cho bare. Ta cho bare.
And
Ko
so
mo mare, zi jago mare, ta cho bare.
if you can do that, if you can integrate these this mind of love, compassion, and wisdom, realizing emptiness, etc., into every moment of life, then even if you've a very short life or a very short time left, you needn't worry. You know that you've actually had a good life. You've made the most of it. There's no need to add up at all. You can rest assured that you have brought more love and compassion and the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom into life. And that's absolutely fine. You've done a good job.
Dede gewa yakbo shi leni ta cho bare. Gewa yakbo leni di tena ya janju sa, toni tobe nyamni je yunba ta cho bare. Ta cho bare.
So you've actually taken that life, you've made the most of it to actually bring that love and compassion and so on into life, and it's we can make that an absolute definite conclusion.
Ta cho bare. Ta dima bachane, dende ge nyamne kaya, ane tseti khurang me da shemba samlo kaya me janju sa, toni tobe nyamne shemba kaya me bacha, samlo kaya me bacha, ane tseti khurang samlo tane deba yina, ane tseringu ji deba yina, ane tseti digi da gaza yawa ne, tsenye mege, ane sonam di same ge lega onga mara, sakje ge le gewe onga de, ane di so, ane dene nyanso lo daya ta cho batane, milyu leba de nyanso ngo yudugun so la chawa ina ta panguro wa.
And so, on the other hand, if one has no thought like this at all to developing one's love, compassion, etc., but is completely immersed in just the stuff of this life, and even if you live a long life, then you must understand that the merit that has allowed this is contaminated merit, and therefore it has the aspect of running out. It's being exhausted. And so at the end of that life, you've exhausted all the positive merit that you gained, and it's inevitable that you will go to a lower realm.
ane milyu leba de nyanso lo ke yuduga yunga so la chana tene, panguro wa.
And so to be born as a human being, but to end up in a lower realm at the end of it is a true disaster. So therefore, make the unmistaken choice. Sorry, I will leave it there for today. I have I'm busy with something else today. We'll bring them on mind again to the merit field where we have the Guru Munindra.
하던도 다 차바 두지가 동해를 따다 미대와 저리샤 다 차바 두지가 동해를 대화 좀 맞춰는 따다 싸워니는 용해민도 근데 인바 인사 아니 저게 그래서 로다 디 잠지 제마도나 무튼에다 교회 동해다 다 동해가 나는 용되게 또 다디 인바 인사 다디 데데를 메시바다 년종주 공부시 예바 좀 년종주 공부시 데네게 예바죠 데네게 연종 예베 로데 아니 가서데 랑게 지고 아니 이게 빰질러 줄수 삼차자 빰 용소 줘발래 아니 빼마 담아게 와질러 줄수 삼차자.
And so we begin by again contemplating the fact that no matter how all 6 realms of existence are inundated by the 3 characteristics of suffering, the suffering of change, and in particular pervasive suffering, and how, this pervasive suffering is really that which induces the former two, the suffering of suffering and the suffering of change. And unless we get beyond that pervasive suffering, we cannot put an end to that, all of these sufferings occurring again and again and again. And so we develop this mind of a definite emergence or renunciation, and that is symbolized by the syllable Bam. And this then is transformed into the lotus mandala seat at our crown, on our crown.
다 들려자 아니 지가서 어떤데 심지 탐제게도 산제 고마 두개 다 두개 인세 나데 다기 쇼는 시체는 세슈 아니 라고 류들도 셈들도 와서 세슈도 다 가자 류셈 당기 때도 세슈와네 가스기도 다 니에처는 매버려 많이 받에 가르다던 것은 나 라와도 맞으면 다던 게 요바에서 많이 받다가 랑을 가자 가서 되가스 셈샤 어디서 아니 대대 예배 로데 아니 가서데 이게 홍지를 조소 성적 홍용소 조발에 아니 님의 경고 약강화 제택에 빼매된도 지월 빼매된도 내소 성적 어디로 고바샤.
And again, as we contemplate this self that is wanting to attain that certain sense of release from cyclic existence, searching for that, and how we, again, looking through the analysis of body and mind in the hope of finding that sense of self, and not finding it. And what does that not finding it imply? It implies that it therefore cannot exist as a self-powered entity or objectively, and it is merely imputed by thought. And that moment of realizing that is the mere negation of the object of negation, focusing on that produces the syllable hung, which transforms into the sun mandala disc on top of the moon disc. The lotus mandala on our crown.
다 라와데 마주바 임바 인사 다 라와데 마주바 인사 다 그 매베 되 말이 라와데 마주바 그 때네 중앙 임바 인사 오다 때네 중앙 인데 아니 산제 고마스는데 오다 예초사래 산제 고베 주 아니 저가서데 다 년중 장세 양답에 따와 아니 다가니 신게 로다 같이 솔랑 토랑 고라 밀로람 체네 오다 사주 람가 디게디 좀 뭐도 손나다 주디게 되는 오다 산제 고바스도 오다 예초이시래샤 오다 딜레데 디 라완데 마주바 딜레데네 아니 산제 고바 요바데다 녀바 니투바 체치 그러다 녀바 니투에 니투네 아니 데서 오다 딜레 녀바데다 가서라다 가서래 잡데 서마유베 녀바르바 로다 디 녀바도 오다 산제 고마지 줍주여는 마주라다 카네틱 대대 임바다 심제 탐제게도 산제 고마 마주도 타면도 그냥 뉴원지도 줍도바 지금 삼자 고마잖아 저거 라완다 마주바 딜레 때네 아니 산제 고마 요바디 녀바니 투바체 어디 고마셔 어다 딜레저 어다 된데게 녀바 dum바디 된데게 심제다 산제 고마 저 대야 뉴원지도 줍바치기서 된데게 dum바디 아니 가서 이게 아치를 줘서 선자 용서 줘발에 다외 지고 약강하지 주네 아니 님의 지고기 때문에 내서 선자 어떤 거 맞자
And so this contemplation of the lack of any self-powered existence is very valuable to us, because we can conclude we ask the question, does therefore that conclude that such a self is non-existent? No, we don't conclude that. We conclude that there is a sense of self, a way of self existing, but that it must be arising in dependence. And that has major ramifications for our developing the aspiration to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Because it's this very fact of phenomena arising in dependence that allows for enlightenment to be possible. Why? Because we can actually accumulate the causes to lead to that state of enlightenment. We can create those causes through developing renunciation, the mind of enlightenment itself, the correct view of emptiness, through establishing the 5 paths and the 10 grounds of a bodhisattva. All of these causes can be accumulated, and these are the causes that lead to that conducive result of enlightenment. And so this is very, very important. And so therefore, we can gain conviction in the path. We can gain conviction that by laying down specific causes, that these causes will lead to that specific result. And so this is not something that we have mere faith in, but that it is established on the basis of valid reasoning. And that's key to what we're trying to do. And so we have that renewed conviction then of wanting to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, because we can see the possibility of it. And we want to do that as quickly as possible. And that aspiration is symbolized by the syllable A, which then on the top of the sun mandala seat is transformed into the moon disk mandala.
아니 바데서 라마르 뭐 다게 주어비다 그래 구소도 정도 저도 소 버들어서 담비 가서 배 니베 가서 주 수면 땐서 산제 고만 마도 보다 제수 오다 야고 시우 중서 산제 고만 마도 보다 라마 두배 온베 제수 송수보다 야고 시우 중서 선의 가고
And that then we begin the invocation verse to invite the Guru Manindra from the merit field in front to sit at our pre-prepared seat on our crown. O glorious and precious Guru, come take your lotus and moon seat placed here on my crown. Keep me safe in your kindness. Bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind. At the end of the first recitation, the figure moves from the space in front. At the end of the second, they have arrived at our pre-prepared seat. And at the end of the third recitation, we have that certainty that the Buddha will remain until we attain enlightenment. And this produces a surge of joy and celebration in us. And we offer the 7 limbs of practice and the mandala offering.
가서 랑이 닝데 이게 빰질라 교소서 빰 용서 주발에 랑이 닝데 뺨마 답제질라 교소서 없었자 안에 때네 지난 거 추어 근데 지원다 지난 거 추었으나다 ene 되게 산제 고마도 가스네 다 가와 자기는 내가 뭐 어때는 아니 가와도 제주 안티 라와는 맞도 봐 공부도 시에네 어때 가자가자다 셈도샤 아니 되게 예배 로디 로데 아니 가서데 이게 홍지를 좀 홍요소 주발에 님의 지고 약한 와저는 빼매되는 데서 삼사라는 니가 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 답제다 아니 되네 왔다 되게 주번에 진짜 공부하시자 심지어 다 되네 라완도 맞어 이제 다 산적 공부해도 다 뒤쪽에 요바 좀 맞어 카네틱스는 아니 대한 요가지도 좀 지금 있어서 공부하시네 심지어 탐자 산적 공부 요가지 맞어 좀 토가 지금 있어서 공부하시 아니 되네 예배 두바티 아니 가서다 이게 아질라 줘서 용서 주발에 아니 다외 좀 원약하고 줘서 반대자가 라마를 보자 다외 니가 빼면서 그래 구수도 좀 쓰대 저 담배 가서 니가 가서 수가 때문에 산재 고마마도 어째 소소서 되네 니 빼마다 이제 인데 마코 좀는 남주 니 내다는 네가 도지 가고 생각을 하게 뒤 다가도 아니 되면서 어머니는 마음을여서 아니 되네 가서도 엄마 알아봐서 나 디디디디 때네 때내가 송아 엄마 얘도 뭐 셔만하지 소한테 이제 스쿼트고 때도 공부하시
And so then we start the reflection on the renunciation again, and how we must attain definite emergence from that state of suffering, how cyclic existence is in the nature of that suffering, and that renunciation is symbolized by the syllable bam, which then appears at our heart center and is transformed into the lotus mandala seat. Again, really reflecting on how all phenomena, inner and outer, like any objective existence, they are in no way have any self-powered existence. But we reflect on how that does not then necessarily, we can't conclude that therefore they are non-existent, but rather that their way, their mode of existence is that they're merely imputed by thought, and that we arrive at that analysis point of the mere negation of the object of negation, and that this then is symbolized by the syllable home, which again is transformed into the sun mandala seed on top of the lotus mandala seed at our heart center, and how again through reflecting on that lack of any self-powered existence, inevitably leading to the fact that phenomena therefore must arise in dependence, and how that is so significant in that it allows for the possibility of progress until enlightenment, because we can lay down all the causes to lead to that result. It validates the law of cause and effect, and that we can quickly attain that state, and that aspiration of wanting to do whatever we possibly can to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all is symbolized by the syllable a, and that again is transformed into moon mandala seed at our heart center. And as a result of preparing the appropriate seating arrangement, we can now invoke the Guru Buddha on our crown to come down to that seat. Oh, glorious and precious root Guru, come take your lotus and moon seat placed here at my heart center. Keep me safe in your kindness. Bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind. At the end of the first recitation, the Guru Buddha moves down through the crown chakra into the central channel. And at the end of the second, they have arrived at our pre-prepared seat. And at the end of the third, again, we have that certainty that the Buddha will remain until we attain enlightenment. And that produces a spontaneous joy in that reality. The petals of the lotus then fold over and are sealed at their tips by a white 5-pronged Vajra. And that whole package is surrounded by 3 mantras: the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha in a clockwise direction, the mantra of Manjushri in an anti-clockwise direction, and the mantra of dependent origination again in a clockwise direction.
제조네 안에 간디가 와도 왜 괜찮아 랑이 류게 내가 두테레레네 아니 왜세게 아니 참네 아니 랑게 토마메버사 디바다 도에키 아니 지가서래 딱 해봐도 아니 지가서래 딱가서래 미게 주보게 추좀 딱 개래 내가 그랬어나 딱까지 제배 하나보다 라젠 하나마도 다 내가 세디엄 생가마 디인가마 토마메버사 아니 다가네 생게 지금 소다게 또봐 다 자주스메 라와 상하게 담시 된데게 이게 다 세대 생각만 된 거만 무슨 다 된데게 지금 도마켈레네 담세데 개와데 가르쳐 와는 봐 사바 되더라고 담세 개 아니 바다마도 개벌로 조사도 구조도 레벨 내지 마 안타베 쳐보 밥에 준들로 고왔다 와 심절로 레벨 내지 봐서 도나 토리다 답에 계속 주는 게 아니 지금 가서 예동고 속 근데 저거는 막 장시 다소 삽다자 다가는 지금 최주에 다 개개 류게 나자 생게 동에 중식 커마뇨와 자롱 틸리 견트 컨디션이나 티켓도 와 장소서 나는 하도도 뉴도 산제 고마토와라 아니 탐에게 낭셰데 견 치치 이마 인바 탐에게 낭셰 견 탐제 당네 가나 탐제 당바라 잡아지 차도와 야부시 중소 섭다자.
So then the light rays begin to emanate from the Guru Buddha within the lotus, They emanate from the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha, and they permeate through every cell of our body-mind continuum, from the crown of the head to the soles of the feet, affecting a completely thorough purification of all negativities that we have accumulated since a beginningless time, and especially focusing on all of the 10 non-virtues, ethical non-virtues of killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, of lying, harsh speech, divisive speech, and idle gossip, of covetousness, malicious intent, and wrong view. How all of these are purified, whether they occurred in this life, the one previous to this, the one previous to that, and so on, going right back to beginningless time. How all of the naturally occurring negativities of those actions that have been proscribed by the Buddha that we have engaged in, how those negativities are also completely purified from this life, the previous life, the one previous to that, and so on. And similarly, any disrespects that we have shown from our parents up to our gurus, the breaking of vows, of all the vows that we have committed to, whether they are Pratimoksha vows or Bodhisattva vows or Tantric vows, any infractions and any downfalls, all of which have been utterly purified, having whether occurring in this life, in the previous life, in the one previous to that, previous to that, previous to that, going back to a beginningless time, and how any obstacles in our system to our being able to practice perfectly the Dharma, be they physical ailments, sicknesses, or disadvantages, or mental issues that we may have, such as, like the issues around the elements in the body being unbalanced, or the channels, winds, and drops being out of sync. All of these things are rectified and purified. And indeed, the very most insidious issue that we have to being able to quickly attain enlightenment, being ordinary appearance, is transformed into pure appearance.
或者，俺说是新的这弄的你那个叫喇嘛现在在过的那这个说是的喇嘛现在在过了就说啥不啥钱，说是新的这生的年来喇嘛现在是个土的人这个说是生的喇嘛现在是土了就，然后弄个喇嘛现在是过出土我也没就说第一点话这这东你什么意思就说啥不啥钱，然
Then
后呢。
through the
然后呢，是也就有卷他在在呢，那喇嘛现在是个大部分就说啥我这不嘛讲。
Then through the combination of my own most subtle wind acting as the substantial cause, together with the body of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own body is transformed into the enlightened body of a Buddha. And then through the combination of my own most subtle mind or consciousness acting as the substantial cause, together with the mind of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own mind is transformed into the enlightened mind of a Buddha. I can see myself, my body, speech, and mind now as inseparable from the body, speech, and mind of a Buddha. This produces a spontaneous sense of bliss, which combines with voidness, and I abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness. Similarly, the place that I am in is transformed of all fault, and it becomes the palatial abode of an enlightened being.
当然，那么现在甚至古苏的我也没觉得那了是没法上了当，哎，第一图个嘞，那么现在是个八都没法做呢，哎，看出个什么叫他这了，那么现在是个，哎，车上那么现在是个热点呢，哎，听罢了，但呢，但他这给这个那么现在是个古苏的我也没觉得是，但那个那啥个那但他这六卷他这那么现在是个单位是都就说是，我他也我是我都是，什么叫他们这个都是三节恐怕中，就是什么叫他这三节个啥了，过个你们这里过做他也我是我就说，说是我的呢。我就搞好，我的那些，他的那没意思，他什么叫他这三节个啥了过吧？第一次都是给我看住，就跟说的这个，我按照语代的这个对象要么是第电话这，第二动吧这，他说你什么意思？结束上上去。
And so then from seeing myself as a fully enlightened being and also lacking any inherent existence, I send out countless rays of light equal in number to all the sentient beings in all the three realms of existence, and that how these rays of light dissolving into each of them allows them to spontaneously arise as a fully enlightened being, such that their own body, speech, and mind is now inseparable from the body, speech, and mind of an enlightened being. Also, the places that they are in are purified of any degeneration or fault, and they transformed into the enlightened abode of an enlightened being. And so again, uh, I kind of like really generate that sense uh, of rejoicing in the fact that this is so wonderful. Today is the day of being able to lead all those sentient beings to that state of enlightenment. This is wonderful. I rejoice, and that uh, I understand that this process of leading all sentient beings to that state of enlightenment, the merit that has facilitated this, and myself as the agent of that merit, completely empty of any objective existence, and they're merely imputed by thought. And this reality produces a sense of bliss, which combines with voidness, and I abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness.
다 다다도 뭐 이제부터 문에 전에 된데들 내라고 줘 말고 이내요. 다다디에 삼로 당원난 신전 문에 거라 된데 용에게 아니 규를 주와쇼. 된데 용알을 라니 산제 고바토. 대 용알을 잔주서 돈이 되게 싫어 남네 줘. 된데 임바자 다 단에 손다 다 단단에 손다 들이 단단에 손다 다 간제 지금 가서래 아니 지금 내단 그래 차와야 기부 주나다 두부 주나다 다 내단 그래 주나 아니 지금 타마 치바 이나야 되게 자주 그서 돈이 또 셔라 기회 튕겨도 교토가 예측이 삼성어든 고마차 어든
Of course, I know I'm operating at the level of aspiration and imagination, that simply things don't happen as conveniently as that. And yet, in my dedication, I make a really profound vow that I will do whatever I possibly can to quickly make this a reality, make this true. And I understand, not naive here, I understand that that requires me to really perfect the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom realizing emptiness. And so the vow I have is to make that vow that from this moment on, I will see every situation as an opportunity to integrate the mind of enlightenment, the wisdom realizing emptiness into whatever I'm doing, whatever situation I am finding, whether it's good or bad, even at the point of death. I will see to it that this is the case. In your Buddha, Loi Lo Sa Ru Kyo Ne Ro Chi Ma Lu Pa De Show Jan Joseph Ma Ke Panam Dong Du Pel Rimpo Liang có mê po yang gong gong du xiao bo shou wei xin cam du pan dang de wo jiang wei chen rei so yi sha si de ba du ten yu chen chen me kempe wong jam pe yang gong chen kempe tu ken song ka pa lo san dai pe sha lo so wa me te we ter chen me kempe wong po yang Gong chen tu ken tong ka pam lo son dai pe sha lo so wan de me te we te chen me kempe wong po jam pe yang gong chen kempe tu ken tong ka pa lo san dai pe You are Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of compassion, not aimed at true existence, and Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, as well as Vajrapani, destroyer of hordes of demons without exception, Tsongkhapa, crown jewel of the sages of the land of snows, Losangrakpa, at your feet I make requests. Thank you again, man.
Everyone, take
Thank
care.
you, Gela.
Okay.
Take
Thank you,
care.
Gela.